benefits for veterans who have been exposed to toxins and burn pit toxins, as well as providing the VA the opportunity to expand care for veterans and their survivors, care that they've really earned and deserve.
So toxic exposure is something that has been a recurring theme in the military. For many, many conflicts we've had since Vietnam. We talked about Agent Orange. Now we have the burn pits. So tell us, what can veterans expect as far as care when trying to get treatment for some of these toxic exposures?
So I can tell you that the PACT Act represents the largest expansion of services in over 30 years, and arguably the largest expansion ever. And the PACT Act was named in memory of Sergeant First Class Keith Robinson, who was a combat medic who died of a rare form of lung cancer. And the PACT part of the PACT Act is actually an acronym, and it is the Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxins Act, which is quite a mouthful, so we shorten it to PACT Act. But I think it's important to know the words, because the first word of that act is the promise. It's a commitment that the VA has to expand and extend eligibility for VA health care for those who served in the Vietnam era, as well as Gulf War and post-9/11 combat veterans. It adds a number of new presumptive conditions that are related mostly to burn pits and airborne hazards, but also to other toxic exposures, including Agent Orange exposures. It adds more presumptive locations for Agent Orange and radiation exposures. Another key point is that toxic exposure screenings will be provided to every veteran who's enrolled in VA care, with follow-up exposure screenings every 5 years. And the other key clinical part and research part is part of this act is to improve research, expand on what's already been done for many years, to improve and enhance staff education so that we're all really familiar and aware of these toxic exposures and what we can do about them, and to develop improved treatments related to these exposures.
Now, you touched on something that I think a lot of people who aren't in the military aren't familiar with, which are presumptives. Can you explain a little bit how presumptives work and what that means?
Sure, that's a really important point. So a presumptive condition is a condition that's been established by law to be caused by military service. So if a veteran has a presumptive condition, they don't need to prove it. It's already been established by law. And that is as long as they meet the requirements of presumption, which could be where and when they served, et cetera.
Okay. So the presumptives are very critical because it kind of helps veterans not have to prove that they are exposed or have some kind of service-connected condition, because if they're presumed to be in that area, that environment, wherever they were overseas or whatever the area that they were considering exposure, you can go ahead and just get treatment. You can go ahead. You don't have to fight for your ability to get treatment. Is that correct in a way?
That has been expanded hugely with this act, and I'm happy to give you some examples if you'd like me to.
Oh yeah.
So first of all, for Agent Orange exposed veterans, with this act, in addition to those that have been passed presumptive by law in the past, is hypertension or high blood pressure, which will impact a huge proportion of Vietnam veterans and those who have been exposed to Agent Orange. For those who had exposures to airborne hazards and burn pits, there are a number of cancer diagnoses that have been added to that presumptive list, including brain cancers, gastrointestinal cancers, reproductive cancers, head and neck cancers, respiratory cancers, and more.
It seems scary when you think about this about the fact that you can just being exposed to something toxic can give you something like a cancer years and years down the road. It seems such.
And there are other chronic non-cancer conditions.
Yeah. So tell me, so when you're treating veterans, what are some of the most common questions you get from people that are trying to get care?
So I think every veteran who has been treated or has been serving in an area where they were exposed I think many have concerns about, what that means to their health. What are the impacts of those exposures on their health? What can they do about them? How are they evaluated? All of those are questions that are commonly expressed.
And would you say that it's important to get care sooner than later? Because a lot of times, if you're coming back from service, you may feel fine, you may not feel sick at the moment, but once again, 10, 20 years down the road, things could develop. So how important is it to get screened early?
Absolutely. With the PACT Act and expansion of these eligibility for veterans, first of all, we want to encourage every veteran, whether they think they're eligible or not, to apply for eligibility for health care if they've not been receiving it already. Very, very important because sometimes exposures may have some immediate and short-term effects, and sometimes those short-term effects may be short-term and sometimes they may progress. And that's much of what this new law is focusing on, some of the longer-term effects, which we've talked about a little already.
So how are the evaluations conducted at the Jessie Brown VA?
So the evaluations, I would say, first of all, to any veteran who gets their care at the VA, and any who doesn't, to look into that. But if you do get your care at the VA, it would be important to discuss your concerns with your primary clinician, your PCP. They're the ones who have your history and who know you, and they may be able to initiate an evaluation in response to what other symptoms you're having. Additionally, at Jessie Brown, we do have an environmental health clinic, which I am the clinician in, and we do evaluations called registry exams, which are essentially questionnaires, often and usually accompanied by physical exams, to address a lot of those concerns. Basically, a registry exam is a questionnaire that is then put into a huge database nationally. However, it really, the way I look at it, it gives each veteran who participates an opportunity to share their concerns, to ask questions, for me as a clinician to address those questions, to update you about new conditions, like some of these new presumptive conditions, and to tell you when I don't know, and there's a lot we really still don't know, which is why research and education is such a big part of this whole process. And ultimately, the goal here is really to improve the health and well-being for all veterans, to use this information.
So you give us a little bit of insight of how to apply. So take us step by step. So a veteran wants to get services, they feel they're entitled to get some of these benefits. What's their first step in order to get treatment?
So first, to get treatment at the VA, you need to apply to enroll. So there are a few ways to do it. It can be done online, in person, or by phone call. And so if you do it in person at Jessie Brown VA, there's a registration office desk that is located in the admission office in the emergency department intake, or you can call Jessie Brown at 312-569-8387. And that number can start you through the process of talking to someone about enrollment eligibility.
And what can a veteran expect when they're going through this process? What types of things are you looking for specifically when you're trying to treat them?
Well, I think that's really individual. It depends on what their symptoms are, what their concerns. We certainly want to address everyone's concerns. In terms of toxic exposures, one of the big parts of the PACT Act is to do these regular exposures. And exposure history is very important, not only military exposures during combat, which is a big part of what this act is talking about, but a really thorough exposure history that might date back to hobbies they might have done as a child, to occupational exposures, whether they be military or not. There are exposures in what we call garrison exposures. For example, at Camp Lejeune, where there was toxic water for decades. And those are not combat exposures, but they're certainly exposures that I've spoken with many veterans who have concerns about those. So an exposure history involves military and other parts of one's exposures during life.
And when we talk about exposure, it's long, I'm assuming the more exposure you have to a toxin, the worse that it'll become in your body over time. So how does someone know if they've hit that critical mass where that exposure it's become toxic, or maybe incidental? Maybe you've had some exposure, but maybe it doesn't evolve into anything.
Yeah, that's a really complex question. I don't have all of the answers, although taking a history and speaking with veterans about what they've been exposed to, both military and before and after, can compound that exposure risk. So if one was in an area for 10 minutes as opposed to being somewhere for 6 months with 24/7 burn pits, I would venture to say that their exposure was much greater if they were surrounded by burn pits burning toxic waste.
And what other services does Jessie Brown VA offer?
Well, Jessie Brown offers comprehensive health care, primary health care, specialty health care, mental health care, rehabilitation care, any number of services, as well as community care services for those who may live far away from Jessie Brown, but are enrolled in the Jessie Brown healthcare community.
Now, when someone who's getting treatment at Jessie Brown VA, how does that differ from, say, a regular traditional private hospital?
Well, the Jessie Brown healthcare is comprehensive within the center, and as I said, with referral services or community care services. There's a great focus on veterans because it is a veteran center, so staff is trained to identify issues that might be common among veterans that perhaps are not as common among those who haven't served or haven't been in combat.
And you have a lot of people on staff, I imagine, that are also veterans themselves that can give care to veterans. So veterans are also serving veterans. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. In every part of the VA healthcare system, from the clinical to the non-clinical care, and we actually identify ourselves with our IDs. And if someone is a veteran, they have an extra tag that says veteran, so they're easily identifiable. Wow. And I think that's really helpful for those who get their care at the VA.
So what do you think is next? So this is a historic legislation that passed. What do you think is the next step as far as the evolution of trying to get better care to veterans? And how does the Jessie Brown VA, what's going to be the mission going forward?
Well, the mission is really to encourage as many veterans to participate. And we really want to encourage veterans to participate so that we can really better, we're committed to addressing healthcare issues that are specific to veterans. And this is developing. This is a brand new law. It was passed 1 month ago. So there are still parts of this law that are still in development. I can tell you that some of it has already been initiated in terms of application for services, in terms of some of the compensation issues that veterans have concerns about.
So also, this is really important. I wanted to ask you too as well. So when will the VA begin their outreach for the PACT Act?
So we're beginning now. We're beginning now by encouraging eligible people to enroll. We are beginning now with education for staff, professionals, to be more informed and better informed about this. We're encouraging people and survivors who may be impacted by some of these presumptive conditions we were talking about to apply for both health care and for disability. So those are some of the ways that we are starting this.
And have you seen positive response so far from veterans? Are you seeing more veterans coming forward and saying, you know what, maybe I should get checked out because I have been exposed to burn pits, I have been exposed to some of these toxic chemicals?
Absolutely. That, like I said, this is very new, but every veteran I talk to has heard something about the PACT Act and how it might impact them or someone they know.
Now,
so absolutely.
Is it necessary because I see a lot of commercials on TV for law firms that are trying to encourage veterans to reach out to them, things like that. Is it necessary to seek legal counsel? Is that something that's helpful at all in order to get benefits? Why are we seeing so many of these commercials on TV from law firms offering their services to help veterans get benefits from the PACT Act?
You know, I know the VBA is going to be on here discussing some more issues about compensation and pension, and I think they might be able to address that perhaps differently than I can right now. I think there have been challenges for veterans getting some of the benefits that they deserve, and with this new law, some of these presumptives, I imagine, will take care of some of those concerns with more than 20 new presumptives that have been established.
Wow. So any last words? Take us out. What's the last thing you want us to know about with the PACT Act, and also how Justy Brown can help veterans?
Well, the PACT Act is really landmark. It's huge. Its services are developing and have started, and I would say that we encourage those who would like to enroll to do so. We're committed to addressing your concerns and your well-being.
I really appreciate your time and all the great information you've given us. Dr. Heidi Baruch, she's a JBVA Internal Medicine Physician and the Environmental Health Clinician who conducts Agent Orange and Gulf War exams, registries, as well as face-to-face burn pit registry exams. Thank you for your time and all the information you've given us.
Thank you so much.
This is America's Heroes Group.
I'm Cliff Kelly, Vietnam veteran and host of America's Heroes Group, the game changer in radio, print, and digital media programming. We are a roundtable talk show where information, resources, and referrals are provided intentionally every Saturday to empower our military population on WVON 1690 AM, the iHeart Radio app from 4 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Please visit our website at www.americashg.org. Hi, this is Cliff Kelly, the host of America's Heroes Group. If you or a loved one has been injured in an accident or the result of malpractice, you have only one chance to get the compensation you deserve. You need a law firm you can trust with experience and resources who will fight on your behalf. With a proven track record of excellence both in and out of the courtroom, call Seidman, Margulis, and Fairman at 312-781-1977 for a free consultation, or visit SeidmanLaw.net. That's Seidman, SEIDMAN, law.net.
Hello, this is Darren Jeffrey. I was the course creator for American Ninja Warrior on NBC. I'm also a founding board member for the Rick Harriman Foundation, or RHF. RHF is proud to partner with America's Heroes Group in bringing you this year's RHF Ninja Warrior O course, free for active and retired military families, September 10th and 17th at Rick's Place, located 5 minutes from the front gate of Fort Bragg, Fayetteville, North Carolina. If you're a ninja or wish to volunteer at this event, visit rhfnow.org/ninja and register. If you would like to thank these incredible men and women in uniform and their families, be a sponsor. Visit rhfnow.org/sponsor and come on out and meet the RHF family.
Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelly and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 312-803-2618.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group, this time with our roundtable and our partner, Chicago Regional Office of the Veterans Benefits Administration. September is National Suicide Prevention and Hispanic Heritage Month. Today is Saturday, September 10th, 2022. You heard our host, Cliff Kelly, at the break. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have a panelist on the line with us today. This is Justyna Berry. She's a U.S. Army Iraq combat veteran and the Chicago Regional Office Public Contact Representative, and Donnis Overton, U.S. Army combat veteran and U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Public Contact team member. And we're going to talk about military environmental exposure to burn pits, the legislation that's been passed, and also the VBA process requirements in filing a claim. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Very good. Very good.
How are you?
Very good. So what is needed in order to file a claim? Justyna?
So what is needed is, the first thing is you need to know if you were previously denied for the condition. And if you were previously denied, then you would need to submit a VA Form 0995, which is a supplemental claim. If this is your first time filing for it, then you claim it on a VA Form 526EZ.
Okay. So what's the process like? Is this going to be a long, complicated process in order to get benefits?
No, I believe that this will be an easier process because now it's presumptive based on where you served. So you don't have to prove that you had treatment in service for the presumptive list conditions.
And it seemed like it took a while to get this pushed through. What finally got legislation done in order to help people with these burn pits and this toxic exposure that people have been dealing with for years?
I think that it was probably the fact that veterans actually, they were the ones that were fighting for these benefits. And as you saw probably in the news, John Stewart came through and he was, advocating for veterans just like the September 11th victims. So I think it's just, the time has come to compensate these veterans for the exposures.
So once again, take a little more detail about the process. So a person files it, get the proper paperwork, they file their claim. Then what's the next step?
Okay. Well, the next step, after they have filed the claim, is they will be set up for an exam, and after the results will be given to the veteran, and then they will be the claim will be adjudicated properly. But again, like Justyna mentioned, they don't have to prove, that they had treatment and service. So all the veterans need at this point is a diagnosis and to prove that they were actually in the area of Vietnam and Gulf War areas during a service. And
from what I understand too, they expanded the regions that are covered now, because before they kind of had a more of a narrow, service area which you could actually claim. But now there's places like Laos and Cambodia, all these different places that weren't really included in the previous legislations. Is that correct?
Correct. They've actually added 5 new locations. So any U.S. or Royal Thai military base from January 9th of 62 through June 30th of 76. Laos from December 1st of 65 to September 30th of 69. Cambodia from April 16th of 1969 through April 30th, 1969. Guam or America Samoa, or in the international waters off the Guam or America Samoa from January 9th, 1962 through July 30th, 1980. And Johnston Atoll, or on any ship that was called at Johnston Atoll from January 1st, 1972 through September 30th, 1977. So if any veteran served on active duty in any of those locations, the VA automatically assumes that they had exposure to Agent Orange now.
What are some of the things that can happen to your body? If you've had some of these toxic exposures, how do you know if you're affected or not?
Again, the veterans would need to go and once they file the claim, then they would be able to go to that CNP exam, and then they would be able to, express their concerns at the exam, or they can even do that beforehand. If they can go to the VA or their local doctor and get examined, and if they have these conditions, then they can file for them.
What are some of the things that you're seeing? What kind of conditions are people coming up with?
As far as what the new burn pit?
With the burn pits, I've heard like a lot of strange stuff. I had no idea that even for like Agent Orange exposure, guys, or they're saying diabetes is like one of the things that you might develop just from having Agent Orange exposure.
Mhm. Yeah. Now, one of the new. Go ahead.
I just want to. Diabetes is that diabetes is a systemic disease. So if a veteran develops diabetes and they were exposed to Agent Orange, but then later they develop peripheral neuropathy or a kidney condition or hypertension or erectile dysfunction, they can claim that it's due to their diabetes condition.
So it seems like it's really critical to go get that exam, to get checked out, to make sure, because once again, people coming back from service, these things might not make themselves known to maybe 10, 15, 20 years after you've been exposed to these things. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yes.
So it's critical to get checked out.
What I would also like to veterans mention is that, due to the COVID pandemic, some veterans didn't seek medical treatment. So they can also write their symptoms on, a VA Form 4138, Statement in Support of Claim. So they can discuss the symptoms that they're having that can, reasonably conclude that it's a disease. You can't self-diagnose a cancer, but you can certainly, like chronic sinusitis, you're competent enough to say that, you have blockages in your nose, or you have mucus coming down, or postnasal drip. So you can write a statement discussing your symptoms, and the VA will have to accept that as a current diagnosis.
And what are the dangers for postponing getting an exam?
I would say that, I mean, ultimately it's on the veteran. I mean, if they don't go get an exam, then, I mean, it's their health. You know, if they know that they've served in the Gulf, or they know that they served during Vietnam and that they had exposure, it's totally up to them, you know, to get, you know, go and be seen. I hear a lot of veterans come in our office and they're furious because they feel like we have to reach out to them, and that's not the case. It's, you know, there's too many resources out here to include, you know, this radio show that they can access and get assistance. So I just want to let, you know, my fellow veterans know that we are here to assist you, but it starts with you. This is your claim. This is your life. And it also affects your family out here, too. So, you know, if you don't know whether or not you've been exposed, if you think you've been exposed, if you can't remember, they can always come and see us. They also can use va.gov and simply type in Gulf War presumptive or Vietnam era presumptive. And once they do that, it's going to pull up all the conditions that are presumptive, which means it is presumed that you have this condition due to your service in that area.
And I think it's really important for veterans to understand that, because if you're not familiar with the VA system, the idea of presumptives is really critical, because before you would always have to prove you had some kind of service-connected condition, so something that happened to you in the military. But because it's presumptive now, just by just being in the military at that particular time or being at a certain location, you're automatically going to be assume that you have this. You got this from your military service.
Mm-hmm.
So are you seeing more veterans taking advantage of this, or people actually stepping forward and saying, hey, you know what, maybe I need to get checked out?
I have seen an influx of veterans since the PACT Act has passed come in our office now, and they have questions, and they want to know if it applies to them. They want us to, you know, check their service. A lot of them, you know, don't remember, and so that's fine, you know, and we're able to tell them yes or no. So I have definitely seen, you know, veterans, and then I've met up with doing other outreaches just this past week, you know, and was able to help 2 people and, you know, ultimately, you know, get their claim started for these new conditions. Hypertension is a really, really, really big one. It wasn't presumptive before to Vietnam, and now it is. So that's really, really, really a huge one.
Wow. And then, so when the veterans are filing for these different, making these claims, what's the timeline look like? Is it something? Is it a long process once you fill these forms? Once you get seen by a doctor, how long does this all take typically before you actually get treatment?
The veterans can go get treatment when, you know, that's at their discretion. You know, we're the benefit side of this, so we don't tell them when they can go get treated. That's totally up to them. They can go whenever they see fit. As far as their claim go, however, it generally can take up to 140 days. However, it is very important for the veterans to understand that if, like Justyna said, if you have been previously denied and you apply for this, reapply and are granted, your effective date will only go back to the date that the law became effective. Additionally, they will not start processing any of these claims until January 2023.
Okay.
So just to put that out there. And then once you file it, generally from the time the veterans file their claims to CMP exam to adjudication, it generally takes up to 100. It can take up to 140 days.
So what can you tell veterans to make their process smoother? What are some of the things that they need to do to be prepared when they file a claim?
I would say that they need to submit a current medical diagnosis. So whether that be through their treatment at the VA Medical Center, or if they get treatment at a private doctor's office, they can just write on their application form the name of the doctor or to actually speed it up, if they actually submit their private medical evidence, that would probably speed up the claim process. Another thing that they can do is they can make sure that they file their application on the proper form. So that's why I think it's a good idea for the veteran to either call our National Contact Center to figure out if they were previously denied, to make sure that they're submitting their application on the proper form, so that doesn't delay their claim processing time. Because if it's submitted on the incorrect form, then the veteran service representative would have to send a letter out, and that would delay the process.
And so if someone's been denied, you mentioned this before, but if someone's been denied, what's the process like for that person? What type of form do they need, and then how hard is it to correct mistakes that they've made on their first claim?
So I think that the PACT Act makes it easier, because now that the condition is presumptive, that could be a reason why they were denied, because previously a veteran could have claimed a condition directly due to service, but it was denied because the examiner couldn't link it back to service. But now that the condition is presumptive, then that opens up the benefit.
And then as far as applying for disability benefits, so how does that process work? And then also, what are some of the hurdles to trying to prove disability?
Well, again, in order for the veterans can do a multitude of things in order to file for their disabilities. For starters, they can actually come in and see us. They can make an appointment to see us if they don't have a representative, or, even if they do have a representative, they can make an appointment to come in and see us. Or they can make an appointment for us to give them a call, which is considered to be a virtual appointment. They can do this one of two ways. They can call the National Contact Center at 1-800-827-1000, and they can tell them that they would like to schedule an in-person appointment or a virtual appointment with the Chicago Regional Office. The veterans can then either come in, or we'll give them a call, and once they go through the proper ID protocol, we can pull up and, look at their DD-214 and then go from there. Or the veterans can go through va.gov. They can go to search and then go to VA facilities, type in their zip code. Once they type in their zip code, they'll, it'll the VA benefit. They will select VA benefits office, and then Chicago Regional Office will come up, and then they can make their appointment that way to either, again, come in person and see us, or they can schedule a virtual appointment, and that's where we would give them a call if they simply do not know. Because it's just a matter of us looking at their DD-214 and seeing whether or not they serve during the time frame in the correct area in order for them to be considered for these presumptives.
And then what do you see veterans not taking advantage of the most? So if you could give veterans advice as to what they should be taking advantage of, what are some of the benefits you would say that they should be doing?
Well, for starters, I think that if they don't know, then they should make the appointment and give us a call. Make an appointment to come and see us, and we can go from there. Everything from educational benefits to assistance with these new presumptives to even filing a claim. I've seen and encountered so many people that didn't even know they can file a claim due to not knowing or not being educated. So they don't take advantage of the fact that they definitely can file claims. A lot of times, I've heard a lot of stories about people just wanting to leave. So when they left service and the VA people was there, the DAV people was there, the IDVA was there, and American Legion was there, they ran right past them tables and kept on with their lives. Wow. And then, 20 years later comes, now they got all these aches and pains. They went to the VA or they was in a grocery store and heard somebody talking about, I got service connected at 70%. I got this. And then it clicks in their head that they could have been being compensated for the past 10, 15, 20 years. So
can someone get retroactive benefits?
Huh?
Can they get retroactive benefits? Say a person 20 years down the road wants to apply and try to get retroactive benefits. Is that possible?
I think it would depend if they had an intent to file in the system. Yep. So what an intent to file does is that it holds the effective date. So let's say we have callers on the line right now that are unsure if they were exposed or if they, have a current diagnosis. I would encourage them to call the 1-800-827-1000 number to file an intent to file, so that will give them one complete year to gather their evidence and then submit their complete application, which would include the diagnosis, the proper form, and we can go back to that date of intent to file.
So it seems like it's really critical for people to really just start the process, because it seems like, because that's one of the things I think a lot of veterans are kind of worried about, particularly now that more information is getting out there about toxic exposure, particularly with burn pits and the chemicals that you're dealing with in the military, things like that. Is that people don't know if something's going to trigger in their body down many years down the road, and it seems to scare a lot of veterans.
Absolutely. So it doesn't hurt to go get an exam, and it does, but and see where you stand physically or even mentally. So I would encourage everybody, under the sound of my voice that are listening, to, if you have any doubts or if you have any questions about your health and whether or not you could have possibly got an issue or have an illness because of service, just go get checked out. You can go to the VA or go to your private doctor, whatever suits you best. That's the first step right there.
And I think that's good words of advice, because like we mentioned before, so many people were affected by these toxic exposures. I mean, millions of veterans around the world being exposed to burn pits, being exposed to all kinds of these crazy toxic chemicals, Agent Orange. The list goes on and on. So people, guys, you got to get checked out. You got to get now people that are in the Guard who didn't necessarily get deployed overseas. Is there any difference as far as how they can claim, or any requirements, or is it harder for someone who's not deployed to get seen or treated while to file a claim versus someone who's been deployed?
I think the same rules would apply for service connection. So if you're in the National Guard and you injured yourself during a drill, you can still file a claim. So we hear from a lot of National Guardsmen and reservists that even were previously denied service connection because the VA stated that they didn't have the condition in service. But, sometimes they go back to their company commander and they get a line of duty determination. They resubmit that evidence as new and relevant evidence with their VA form 0995 supplemental claim. And then, that can get them service connected.
So it's a matter of also being diligent as far as making sure that if you get denied, that you don't just give up and say it's over with, but stay in the fight and make sure that you're sticking up for yourself, so to speak.
Yes, I think you're right on point, because a lot of veterans, when they get denied, they get very discouraged. They say, VA's not here to support me. But sometimes it could be, a piece of evidence that's missing out there. So it's all about, researching why you were actually denied so that we can assist you in getting that new evidence.
Would it make sense for veterans, particularly if they're still communicating with some of their old members in their units and things like that, to maybe do this not on your own, but maybe filing claims with your fellow soldiers or federal veterans?
Yes, we've seen that a lot. Yes, we've seen that quite a few times where you can get a buddy statement. So if you served with somebody and, you witnessed, Soldier Smith, fall and trip and, twisted his ankle, but he never went to sick call, you can write that statement for him and say, I was serving with this soldier at this time. I witnessed him, fall and trip, and that can potentially be new and relevant evidence.
Wow. That's good advice, because, like I said, many a time, a lot of veterans, like I said, are very, very nervous about stepping forward. I think some of it, personally, I think it's that people don't want to hear the bad news. They're almost as if they're trying to avoid hearing something negative about their body or finding out that there's something wrong with them. So they don't want to step forward or file a claim. Do you see that at all? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, we see that. We see that a lot. Like they give up, and they just, they don't want to hear the bad news. And sometimes the bad news came at the wrong timing because we didn't receive that evidence at that time. So I would say to anybody listening, please, if you were denied something, you can request a Freedom of Information Act. You can get your records. You can actually research why you were denied so that you can get the evidence to, reopen your case.
And there's no and there's no harm in going back again and again. If you get told no 3 times, you can still go back 3 more times. Is that right?
Right, that is correct. Because our new appeals, you can do a supplemental claim within a year. You can do a higher level review claim, or you can send it to Washington, D.C. to the Board of Veterans Appeals. So you have more options now to appeal your claim and to get service connected.
So what other advice would you give soldiers and veterans who are filing a claim and want to have the best chance of success? What are some of the things you would mention to them to make sure that they do some of the do's and don'ts of filing a successful claim?
I would say that the veterans need to be proactive in their claims. A lot of times they think that, I just went and filed paperwork, so that's it, I'm going to just sit and wait. No, they have the right to know what the status is, and they also, when they leave office, they need to make sure that they understand everything that just happened in the meeting, from the claim process to what happens after that, to the time frame, to the statements that they write, the statements that their buddies write, all of that. They need to understand that they have to be proactive in their claims because it is their claim. And additionally, the gatherings, making sure that they are that they have the diagnosis for the condition that they have, that they're claiming, because without a diagnosis, you will be denied. So please make sure that before you file a claim, please make sure that you all are diagnosed with that condition. And lastly, if the condition is not presumptive, making sure that they have the correct evidence to support their contention. So be it a statement from them, because a lot of times we see that the veterans don't have a link to service, and the link could be a doctor providing a statement, or even sometimes them writing their own statement, or their buddies or their friends that serve with them writing a statement, or their medical evidence while in service. So that's also important as well, for them to make sure they have the sufficient documentation that they need when they're filing their claim.
I think that's words to live by. I think that's very important. Veterans, go out there, make sure you have your documentation, make sure you get checked out, file your claims while you are eligible and able to do it. File your claims. This is Justyna Berry, she's a U.S. Army Iraq combat veteran and the Chicago Regional Office Public Contact Representative, and Donnis Overton, she's a U.S. Army combat veteran and works with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Public Contact Team member. Thanks for your time and also the information you've given us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Our pleasure. This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.
We have in our chase bags, we have a care package of hygiene, we have shaving equipment, we have razors, and for the women we have the same personal hygiene items for them as well. And we want to say thank you for their service. This is Chase Bank. Thank you very much. People in the neighborhood, free haircuts, and service and food. Look good. We have in our chase bags, we have a care package of hygiene, we have shaving equipment, we have razors, and for the women we have the same personal hygiene items for them as well. And we want to say thank you for their service. This is Chase Bank. Thank you very much.
People in the neighborhood, free haircuts, the service, and food. Look good. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
On behalf of Cliff Kelly, America's Heroes Group, we sincerely thank Chase Bank for coming where it matters to help homeless veterans have a hot meal today and a care package. We are sincerely grateful for this partnership. Yeah. Yeah.
We have in our chase bags, we have a care package of hygiene, we have shaving equipment, we have razors, and for the women we have the same personal hygiene items for them as well. And we want to say thank you for their service. This is Chase Bank. Thank you very much.
People in the neighborhood, free haircuts, the service, and food. Look good. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
On behalf of Cliff Kelly, America's Heroes Group, we sincerely thank Chase Bank for coming where it matters to help homeless veterans have a hot meal today and a care package. We are sincerely grateful for this partnership. Yeah. Yeah.
We have in our chase bags, we have a care package of hygiene, we have shaving equipment, we have razors, and for the women we have the same personal hygiene items for them as well. And we want to say thank you for their service. This is Chase Bank. Thank you very much.
People in the neighborhood, free haircuts, the service, and food. Look good. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
On behalf of Cliff Kelly, America's Heroes Group, we sincerely thank Chase Bank for coming where it matters to help homeless veterans have a hot meal today and a care package. We are sincerely grateful for this partnership. Yeah. Yeah.
We have in our chase bags, we have a care package of hygiene, we have shaving equipment, we have razors, and for the women we have the same personal hygiene items for them as well. And we want to say thank you for their service. This is Chase Bank. Thank you very much.
People in the neighborhood, free haircuts, the service, and food. Look good. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
On behalf of Cliff Kelly, America's Heroes Group, we sincerely thank Chase Bank for coming where it matters to help homeless veterans have a hot meal today and a care package. We are sincerely grateful for this partnership. Yeah. Yeah.
We have in our chase bags, we have a care package of hygiene, we have shaving equipment, we have razors, and for the women we have the same personal hygiene items for them as well. And we want to say thank you for their service. This is Chase Bank. Thank you very much.
People in the neighborhood, free haircuts, and service and food. Look good. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. On behalf of Cliff Kelly, America's Heroes Group, we sincerely thank Chase Bank for coming where it matters to help homeless veterans have a hot meal today and a care package. We are sincerely grateful for this partnership. Yes. Yes.
We have in our chase bags, we have a care package of hygiene, we have shaving equipment, we have razors, and for the women we have the same personal hygiene items for them as well. And we want to say thank you for their service. This is Chase Bank. Thank you very much.
People in the neighborhood, free haircuts, and service and food. Look good.
To 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Please visit our website at www.americashg.org.
Hello, this is Darren Jeffrey. I was the course creator for American Ninja Warrior on NBC. I'm also a founding board member for the Rick Harriman Foundation, or RHF. RHF is proud to partner with America's Heroes Group in bringing you this year's RHF Ninja Warrior O course, free for active and retired military families. September 10th and 17th at Rick's Place, located 5 minutes from the front gate of Fort Bragg, Fayetteville, North Carolina. If you're a ninja or wish to volunteer at this event, visit rhfnow.org/ninja and register. If you would like to thank these incredible men and women in uniform and their families, be a sponsor. Visit rhfnow.org/sponsor and come on out and meet the RHF family.
Service Women Who Serve is proud to partner with Cliff Kelly and the American Heroes Group as an influencer of social change through advocacy, activism, and examination of legacy for military and veterans. We stand as paradigm-shifting thought leaders, believing social justice is grounded in hope.
Hi, I'm Sister Soldier, proud partner of She Voices on America's Heroes Group. She serves, she matters, where your change becomes empowered. Also, watch me on the web at SheVetInspires.com or YouTube. Remember, I'm every woman.
From the Xfinity Studios at WVON, it's America's Heroes Group, hosted by Cliff Kelly, with co-host Dr. Damon Arnold and National Guard veteran Sean Claiborne on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
And welcome back to America's Heroes Group. This time our roundtable, She Serves, She Matters with She Voices, coalition partner Sistah Soldier. September is National Suicide Prevention Month and Hispanic Heritage Month. Today is Saturday, September 10th, 2022. Our host is Cliff Kelly. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have our partner with us, Wanda Petty. She's a U.S. Army veteran and president and CEO of She Vet Inspire, and she's brought us a panelist, Jennifer Arvin Furlong. She is the founder and CEO of Communication 24/7 and a U.S. Marine Corps veteran. We're going to talk about traits of empowered communicators. And one thing I wanted to mention as well, one of the great things on Ms. Furlong's resume, she was a Marine Corps veteran and the first awarded the Sergeant Major Dan Daly Award and the first woman Marine to be appointed editor of the Chronicle Century, the Marine Corps' oldest newspaper. How are you guys doing today?
How are you doing?
Wonderful.
So tell us, what's a trait of an empowered communicator?
Trait of an empowered communicator. Well, I think the number one trait of any empowered communicator is that they know their audience. They are able to adapt their message. They're able to adapt their delivery style. They're able to adapt their listening style, all depending on who is standing or sitting in front of them, whether it's just one person or 1,000 people. They have to be incredibly in tuned into the audience and remain audience focused throughout that message.
So tell us a little bit about 24/7. What is 24/7 Communications about?
I created Communication 24/7 about 15 months ago. I had taught at the college level for 18 years, teaching communication and public speaking courses. And like a lot of other people in the age of COVID, I decided maybe this was time to branch out and do something different. So I decided to start a business. And now I go into organizations and I help them manage their most difficult communication challenges. So I work directly with their leadership, managers, helping them team build, learn how to adapt their communication styles and conflict management, learn how to give more effective feedback, all of those things.
So when you watch YouTube and things like that, and a lot of these social media platforms, what do you see as big mistakes or common mistakes that people make when they're trying to communicate or deliver a message?
I think the number one mistake that a lot of people will make, whether they are online or they're in person, is not really being in the moment, living in the moment, paying attention to whomever it is that they're talking to, and really just giving them the listening that situation deserves. Because, just like what we're talking right now, if we were to be online on YouTube, and someone is looking away all over the place or not looking at the camera or messing with their phone, I see that happen a lot. So I think that's something that I think many of us could probably do a much better job at, whether it's in person or online, just being in the moment and listening.
So why is that? Why do you think so many people are distracted? Because it seems like, particularly with cell phones, people tend to not be present, like you just mentioned. They kind of want to go off and get in their own little world and not be present in the conversation.
Yeah, don't get me started. It's one of the things, just from being in the classroom to being in a restaurant, you see this happening at such a young age. One of my biggest pet peeves is I'll see parents come into a restaurant with their young child and they sit the child down at the table, and immediately what do? Put an iPad, just slap an iPad right there in front of the kid's face. And it's just training them, to not pay attention to the conversation that's happening. And so, of course, I blame a little bit social media. Anything that's based off of an addiction model is probably not going to be good for your communication. So it's our attention spans are like the attention span of a gnat anymore. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. So we really have a lot of work to do to try to manage how much time we spend on social media and on our cell phones versus how much time we dedicate to actual human beings and just focusing on that art of communication and giving that person our time and our just being in the moment and our being fully present.
So what inspired you to kind of get into communication?
When I went into the Marine Corps, I went in right out of high school, and I knew I wanted to be in journalism. So, of course, that was the first thing that I chose. And my MOS ended up being public affairs, so I went to broadcasting school. I went to to print journalism school, and I'm so happy that that's how it worked out because I absolutely loved it. I think that's where I thrived, and just being able to get a pen and a pad and do a deep dive and do interviews, kind of like what you're doing, and learning about other Marines and their families and what's happening in the Marine Corps. And it was just the best gig ever. I always say public affairs was the best MOS ever. It really was.
I wish I'd done it myself when I was in the military. I was a mechanic, but I went to school to study public affairs and kind of went through the ranks of doing college radio and things along those lines. But the thing that I always love about communication is hearing people's stories. Like that is what drives me to really do this every weekend. Most of us are volunteers on this show, but just hearing people's stories and hearing their commitments to serving other people, particularly when things that you guys are doing, you're going out and teaching people how to be effective communicators, but at the same time, showing people how much power that can have when you are an effective communicator.
Oh, absolutely. One of the best gifts that I think you can give to yourself is investing in learning how to become a stronger communicator. And the research is there. It shows that those who are more effective at communication, they're healthier, their personal lives gain from it, their professional lives stand to gain from it. You're more influential. So if you want to get involved in politics, whether it's national or down to the local level, in your Board of Education locally, you just stand a better chance of being able to make a positive change in the world around you. And that's what it means to be truly empowered. When you know that you can affect the world around you in a positive way, that is truly a powerful feeling.
So where do you see yourself, say, 5 years from now with your business? You have 24/7 communications. What do you want to take this business 5 years from now?
World domination. No, I'm just kidding. No, I really want to be able to do the most good on the largest stage that I possibly can. So I am just trying to reach out to as many people as I can so that I can be of service. So as far as my business goes, I really just hope I can be able to transition to an even larger, stage so that I can just help others learn to become empowered and help them, whatever their goals are. That's what I'm here for. That's why I just love teaching, so much. That's what it was all about. So get on those bigger stages. That's my goal.
So one of the things I always think about when I think about what's going on in the media today, and that is it seems we're losing. I don't know if we ever had it, but it seems like we need to do a better job at understanding how to decode information. So when I say that, what I'm saying is basically there's so much misinformation out in social media and out in the public domain. How do we become better at decoding information and listening to information to understand if we're hearing a true story, or if we're hearing propaganda, if we're hearing something that's accurate or not? How do we get better at that?
Yeah, media literacy is something else that's close to my heart. I'm a media analyst, and so one of the things I do, I can't believe I get paid to read the news and I get to rate it for reliability and bias. And so this is another thing that I feel very strongly about, with teaching others how to do that, how to be a savvy consumer of communication. And a lot of times what we're doing is when we read the news, we're focused a lot. We're hyper-focused on how biased is it, right? Mm-hmm. Is this something that is coming from the right? Is this something that's coming from the left? When really what we should be doing is focusing more on the reliability aspect of everything is going to have a little bit of bias. We can't help it. People are writing these articles, and of course, those little biases can seep in through the language that is used, how we frame the particular narrative, the type of statistics that we choose to use in order to support whatever it is, the argument, that we're trying to make. So whenever we're reading the news or listening to the news, I highly recommend that we focus more so on the reliability aspect of it. So try to think in terms of, is this something that is truly news? Is this like an Associated Press type of news article where it truly is just, who, what, where, and how? It's explaining the basics. But if this ends up being the type of article that someone now wants to start explaining why something is happening, then we're starting to get more into analysis, and that's going to be a little less reliable, right? Then we start adding the talking heads, and they start giving their opinions on things, and that ends up being less and less reliable. So just pay attention to the difference between news and analysis and opinion, and I think that will help go a long way in our understanding what it is that we're paying attention to.
So what is our fascination with conspiracy theories?
It's clickbait, right?
Right. It seems like when I turn on YouTube, it's like 50,000 different channels pop up about aliens coming to get me, and if they're not aliens, it's some kind of deep state type stuff, whatever. I mean, but what is it? What is their fascination with these conspiracy? and people believe this stuff. People are actually consuming this and are taking it as fact.
Right. And the funny thing about that is, in being a media analyst, we just had a conversation about this the other day. I work with a group of media analysts, so when we read the news, we read it together, and we always have a good cross section of right-leaning, left-leaning, and then centrist type of analysts. And so we end up having some really good conversations, as you can imagine. But the funny thing that's happening is, if you'll read something that is way, way, way to the far right, like hyper-partisan extreme right, or way, way, way to the left, hyper-partisan extreme left, there's a lot of overlap, in those areas. It's almost like coming full circle. And I don't know what the pathology is behind that. I just know that, emotions are contagious, and the more you can get someone to feel something, the more likely they are to share it, and the more likely they are to be louder, about it. And so it's kind of like this perfect storm, this fire catches, and then it just kind of ends up like wildfire, just going all over the place, and it's all based on the emotions. Associated Press and Reuters just isn't as, I guess, fun or exciting to read as something else. Talking about aliens, landing in the.
It's funny because I remember I saw a documentary, and what they said that they blamed 60 Minutes for some of the destruction of what's going on with improper news or improper news reporting. And the reason why they blame 60 Minutes is because before 60 Minutes, people didn't watch the news for entertainment. They watched the news to get information. And then 60 Minutes was the first show that was like number one in the ratings, and all of a sudden people realized that you could actually entertain people with news. So then the news started to become entertaining, and it became about selling, commercials and things like that to get more eyeballs and get ratings and things along those lines. And then all of a sudden, you have the, Fox News is this way, and then you got the MSNBC is the other way, and then you got all these different types of news outlets that are more about, like you mentioned, spinning a story as opposed to trying to give you information.
Yeah, something similar happened with Kennedy and Nixon. They had the first televised presidential debate between Kennedy and Nixon. And when they did the feedback afterwards, they asked all of the listeners to kind of rate what they thought about the presidential debate. And the ones that listened on the radio felt that Nixon won the debate. And then the ones who actually saw it on television, they sided with Kennedy. And, so it's kind of like the beginning of making sure that you're looking good. Kennedy had the makeup on. He accepted, the powder, wanted to make sure he looked fresh, nice and tan. And then Nixon wasn't feeling so well. He didn't want to wear the makeup, and he's over there looking all sickly and pale and sweaty. And it just did not bode well, for a viewing audience. And so it does. It has a huge impact on our perception of what it is that, what it is that we're watching or listening to. All that information that's coming in, and it's having an impact on how we're perceiving that message.
So if you can give somebody 5 tips as to be a more effective communicator, what would those 5 things be?
I would say tip number 1, like I said earlier, know your audience. Make sure that you can adapt your message and your delivery and your listening style. Number 2, know the situation. You know, when you're thinking about communicating with someone, how important is that message? You know, if you are trying to communicate something that's happening within the family, a text message maybe is not the best way, you know, to send it. Maybe pick up the phone and call them. Number 3, you need to know yourself and what are your own values so that you can also determine what are your boundaries and what are your expectations out of a communication situation. And I think the 4th one, I would say know your goals. You know, keep on message what it is that you want to achieve by communicating with this person, and keep that in mind. Do not, you know, go off the rails or, you know, allow anything to you know, go in a different direction. And then number 5, I would say know when to stop, you know when to give space, know when to give time, acknowledge emotions do impact how they're communicating with you, and your emotions impact how you're communicating with them. And sometimes just stopping and giving it time is the best way, you know, to communicate with that other person.
So what makes a successful media specialist?
A successful media specialist. Are you talking in terms of news? Or are you talking in terms of
I guess more in line with what you're doing with 24/7. So when you're out there, you know, promoting your business and teaching people how to be effective communicators, how did you build a business around that?
Yeah. The thing that has been most successful for me is making sure that I get out there in different groups and just listen. I ask a lot of questions. I'm creating a lot of relationships. And in turn, what happens is whenever I've developed a relationship with someone, and I'm really listening to what it is, I'm trying to tune in to what it is that they need, so that I can figure out if I can be of service to them. And if I can't, then hopefully I'll know someone who can be of service to them. That's really the core for me, is developing those relationships, networking, getting on the phone, doing a lot of listening, and having a lot of conversations, and making people feel as if they're being heard.
I think that's so critical, making sure the people that you're listening as also, but also getting that feedback from paying attention to the person you're talking to, so you understand if you're on the same page or not.
That's right.
Very, very good stuff. Wanda Petty, thanks for bringing a great guest. We have Jennifer Arvin Furlong. She's a founder and CEO of Communications 24/7 and a U.S. Marine Corps veteran. We appreciate your time and all the great information you've given us.
Oh, thank you for
welcome.
having me.
Any final words?
I'm gonna hand that over to Sistah.
Well, I would just say that for all those who are transitioning from the service, to recognize the difference between the ways we communicate in the military and the ways we communicate in the civilian world, that the acronyms don't fly so much, and employers really want to know that you understand them. Just as Jennifer was saying, is building that relationship, making sure we're listening to what it is that they need.
And on that note, thanks for joining us. This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.
I'm Cliff Kelly, Vietnam veteran and host of America's Heroes Group, the game changer in radio, print, and digital media programming. We are a roundtable talk show where information, resources, and referrals are provided intentionally every Saturday to empower our military population on WVON 1690 AM, the iHeart Radio app from 4 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Please visit our website at www.americashg.org. Hi, this is Cliff Kelly, the host of America's Heroes Group. If you or a loved one has been injured in an accident or the result of malpractice, you have only one chance to get the compensation you deserve. You need a law firm you can trust with experience and resources who will fight on your behalf. With a proven track record of excellence both in and out of the courtroom, call Seidman, Margulis, and Fairman at 312-781-1977 for a free consultation, or visit SeidmanLaw.net. That's Seidman, SEIDMAN, law.net.
Hello, this is Darren Jeffrey. I was the course creator for American Ninja Warrior on NBC. I'm also a founding board member for the Rick Harriman Foundation, or RHF. RHF is proud to partner with America's Heroes Group in bringing you this year's RHF Ninja Warrior O course, free for active and retired military families, September 10th and 17th at Rick's Place, located 5 minutes from the front gate of Fort Bragg, Fayetteville, North Carolina. If you're a ninja or wish to volunteer at this event, visit rhfnow.org/ninja and register. If you would like to thank these incredible men and women in uniform and their families, be a sponsor. Visit rhfnow.org/sponsor and come on out and meet the RHF family.
Market, advertise, and sponsor your business with Vietnam veteran Cliff Kelly and America's Heroes Group, where information and resources are intentionally disseminated via radio, print, and social media. Call our office for more details at 312-803-2618.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group with our roundtable and our partner, Veterans Legislative Voice. September is National Suicide Prevention and Hispanic Heritage Month. Today is Saturday, September 10th, 2022. Our host is Cliff Kelly. I'm Sean Claiborne, our co-host. I'm a National Guard veteran. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith, and our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Productions. And we have a familiar voice on the line with us, Miss Stephanie Collada. She's a U.S. Army Reserve Sergeant First Class, veteran and founder and creator of the Veterans Legislative Voice. And she brought us a panelist today. That's Cherise Isis. She's a photographer of the Athena division of the Grace Project. We're going to be talking about women's veterans and breast cancer. So, Stephanie, how you doing?
Doing great. I'm excited to be here because we got some great things going. And Cherise Isis, yes, wonderful, beautiful photographer that photographs these women. And it's really important to highlight women veterans and military women with breast cancer. There was a 2009 study that found that military women have a 20 to 40% higher risk of developing breast cancer than civilian women. That study was only done in 2009. It was done, and it only looked at 1990 to 2004. They haven't done a follow-up study, and they haven't really even touched to see if women veterans are affected by burn pits as a variable for this. So it's a big thing to really study about.
Yeah, I mean, I did not know that. So women veterans have a higher chance of getting breast cancer as opposed to the civilian population. That's wild.
Yes, and many women veterans that we know are being diagnosed with breast cancer younger than the actual screening age. And these people don't even have the genes that would actually give them a lower screening rate. So it's something that we really need to bring awareness about. And I'd love to introduce Cherise. If you can just tell us a little bit of how you got started and what's really going on.
Sure. Hi. Thank you for having me on today.
It's our pleasure.
Yes. So basically I started so I've been photographing breast cancer survivors since 2009. And I started the project because I used to do a lot of boudoir photography, and I had basically, to cut a long story short, I had a woman who came to my studio and had a very transformative experience during the process of being photographed. She confessed that she was a 12-year breast cancer survivor and that she felt mutilated underneath her clothing, and that her husband had read an article about my work, and he wanted her to feel the way that my clients felt when they left my studio. And I just thought that was such a beautiful, touching thing for her to tell me. So I continued photographing her, and she started revealing her non-mastectomy breast, but leaving the mastectomy side covered. And after a while, she was like laying on the couch, and she got comfortable, and we're having fun shooting, and suddenly she just takes off her shirt, and she throws her shirt off, and she's like, I'm doing this for myself. And in that moment, I witnessed a woman letting go of 12 years of shame from her body, and it was like probably the most powerful photographic moment I'd had up until that point. So after that, I decided that I would, I started looking on the internet to see what kind of photographs were out there of women that had mastectomies, and the only images that were out there were these kind of gruesome pictures that doctors had taken in their offices that cut the head off of the woman so that you couldn't see her face, and it was down just to the length of the torso. It was in bad lighting, and it was showing very harsh, fresh scars. And I thought to myself, if I was a woman newly diagnosed with breast cancer, I'd feel horrified to think that this is what I was going to look like after, after looking on the internet. So I just started putting it out there that I was going to do this project where I was going to be photographing breast cancer survivors. So a few years went by, and in 2015, my friend Donna Quinn, she was a veteran and also a breast cancer survivor. She approached me and she said, I don't know if you're aware of the study that the Department of Defense did at Walter Reed Hospital. She said, but they did a study that showed that there was up to a 40% increased chance for women in the military to get breast cancer. And she was like, I really want to unearth this information and really spread some awareness about it, because she says, I have young friends who are ignoring lumps in their breasts when they're out in the field, and by the time they go and get it treated, it's too late, and, they have suddenly stage 4 cancer.
Wow.
And so, I said, of course. So she and I started this big campaign in 2015 to try and get a bunch of military women together at the National Women's Memorial in Arlington to do the photo shoot. And we got 20 people together, and it was a really powerful photo shoot because, first of all, like all of the women that showed up at the National Women's Memorial that particular weekend had never really connected with breast cancer sisters that were also veterans. So there was this, aside from doing these really beautiful, powerful photo shoots, there was this real sort of sisterhood that was kind of a side effect of bringing all these women together. And it was really very beautiful weekend. And then, the thing that I found out through photographing these women, it's a very intimate experience when somebody's like revealing their scars, a lot of them revealing their scars for the first time to somebody else other than their doctor or their husbands or but anyway, I in the process of photographing these women, it was kind of incredible because like a lot of the women that I'd photographed had never given themselves a chance to, for instance, cry about their cancer. I mean, when you go through cancer, you're facing your own mortality. And these women just kind of shoved it down. They were, serving alongside men. And many women feel that they have to be not as strong as men, but even stronger than the men when they're serving, because they have something to prove. And so instead of kind of allowing themselves to grieve what was happening to their bodies or grieve the fact that they're like facing their own mortality, they just shoved down their emotions. So photographing them at the memorial was, for some of them, the first time that they had ever allowed themselves to feel any emotion about their cancer. So that was really intense. And then I, heard stories from women, because they start to share their like deep things that have happened to them. There were women who were sent to doctors in the VA who had never had any experience doing breast surgery.
Oh, really?
And
Wow.
So they were sent to like a doctor who specialized in prostate surgery. And one of the women, it like totally messed up. She was a very fit, strong military woman who, had exercised a lot and stuff, and suddenly like this doctor had messed up her stomach muscles from trying to do a reconstruction that he really didn't he didn't have experience doing. So she could no longer exercise anymore. She had to quit her work. She lost her position in the military. And she had to spend thousands of dollars of her own money on correcting what happened to her body as a result. So there's many stories that like that. I mean, I talked to a woman who was a colonel, and she didn't want to be photographed because she was still in active service and she was in charge of a lot of men, and she didn't feel like she would be taken seriously if she participated in the project, but she did want to talk to me about the project and her experience. And she told me about how in order to not lose her position in her job and her benefits, she continued serving while she was taking chemo, and that like wreaked havoc on her body. So she was out in Afghanistan having to ride in trucks, and they can't pull over because her stomach's upset, so she had to wear Depends in the field. And just really, really intense stories that nobody realizes that these women are going through in the process of having breast cancer treatment.
Do you know if there's anything happening now in the military to try to address this issue?
Well, I think that there's more awareness starting to happen now. I mean, with the PACT Act and stuff like that, and some recognition that there is actually with toxic exposure and stuff, that people are having health issues because of that. And I feel like that's a really positive step towards change. And there's a woman in the project, Dr. Kate Thomas Hendricks. She actually passed away just earlier this year. And but she was a real advocate for bringing this awareness to the forefront, and she actually was responsible for the Mammo Act, which would allow young women to be able to have access to mammograms regardless of whether they were of the right age or not, because when she found her lump, she was told she was too young. And and she ended up getting diagnosed stage 4, and it's really tragic because Kate was just such a beautiful person, but she left behind a husband and a young son, because she had this stage 4 cancer. So and my friend Donna, who I told you about, who gave me the information about the increased statistics, she actually died from breast cancer in 2020. Wow. So, so it makes it even more kind of like near and dear to my heart, because I lost this really special person who, now I've actually lost 5 people who've participated in this part of the project. But,
so 40% increase in risk of having breast cancer by being in the military.
Yeah, between the 20 to 40% increased chance, yeah.
Wow.
Which is really kind of staggering statistic.
Yeah, it's really scary. And so one of the things that we're doing to bring up the awareness is she's having a photographic exhibition at the Military Women's Memorial at the Arlington National Cemetery in Arlington, Virginia. That's going to be from September 24th to October 9th, free and open to the public. You can ask at the gate how to get there, and it's really going to be a very beautiful, wonderful thing to behold. And one of the things that we're also adding to bring more awareness is on October 1st, we're going to have a panel of experts, oncologists, and we also have breast cancer survivors, and Diana Donnis, which everybody's familiar with. She's a legislative analyst, and so they're going to have a really wonderful panel to talk about all of this. And then that's at 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., and then from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. will be an artist reception, so everybody can meet the panelists, they can meet the models, they can meet Charisse and talk about everything that's really going on. This event will also be virtual through the Military Women's Memorial on YouTube. So I really am trying to encourage as many people as possible to come out and come witness and really learn a lot and come to meet everybody.
I think that's really great. Yeah. And I think it's really important, too, that this project seems to be a way to get these survivors together and create a sisterhood, to create a support network where they can share stories and kind of get some healing through that process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, the other thing too that we're going to have is some of the pictures. Hopefully, it'll work at the memorial. But we're going to have QR codes under some of the photographs because I've done a few recordings of some of the women, just like little brief snippets of their story where they're speaking in their own voice about their experience of breast cancer, but also and serving in the military, but also participating in this project. And it really is actually just even participating in the project itself is a really healing thing because there's a lot of power when you stand in front of a camera and you say, these are my scars and this is what's happened to me, and you're kind of asking the world to accept your scars and your story and the things that have happened to you, but you're also asking yourself to do that as well. And then, having the exhibit at the Women's Memorial is like just such a really beautiful thing that's going to happen because these women, not only are they being kind of seen for their breast cancer journey, but they're also being recognized as women veterans and in this space, this really beautiful, grand space. So I'm so excited for these women to be able to, many of them are traveling from across the country to come and see their portrait in an exhibit. And it's just going to be such a beautiful, another level of healing for them to see themselves in this beautiful, grand space that honors their service,
Wow. You mentioned something earlier about how, first of all, the military is predominantly male. Do you feel that the military is doing a better job of recognizing the difference between a male versus a female soldier and some of the needs that women have wearing a uniform and also just their medical needs? I mean, hearing stories that, they didn't even have, you're seeing that people were going to the VA or going to the hospital or going through TRICARE, I'm assuming, and not even having access to people that had experience to give them the type of treatments and surgeries that they needed for something that you hear about all the time. I mean, breast cancer is not something that's not unheard of. I mean, it's a common cancer.
Yes, very true.
I feel like there are changes that are being made, and we're moving towards better treatment for these women, but I feel like we're not there yet, and I feel like it differs from place to place. It really depends where you're living. So some of the women have better experiences than others.
Yeah, I really agree. And I have a funny story for my own part. When I was serving and I had food poisoning from the travel hall while I was in Kuwait, and so I had to go to the sick call. And so one of the things that they normally do is that, you have to do the pregnancy test for women whenever you come in nauseous. And so that happens, and then they do the regular exam and put, oh gosh, I can't even remember the name, the thing that they used to hear. So they put it on my stomach, and one of them jumped up and looked scared. She accidentally put it there to where my heartbeat line was. She thought she was hearing a baby's heartbeat.
Oh, wow.
Without realizing, because I was underweight as a woman, that's actually pretty common to have that heartbeat line down the center of your stomach. And it caused a little bit of drama, until we finally got the pregnancy test back. So that was pretty interesting, because especially with being a woman in a male-centered dominated area, if a woman is even known to be having sex in certain areas, it really ruins your reputation.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so when you go through things like that, through a mess up and through a mistake by somebody, and then it really negatively impacts you, it hurts your career, hurts your mental health. So there's a lot of things, little things that people go through because of their gender.
So, that's really crazy to me. I mean, it's something you don't really think about as a man. I never thought about it, but the reality is that, and I hear this a lot from female soldiers and people that are female service members, is that women are being taught to be like men in a sense when they're in the military. Yes. So you're thinking like a man, you're dressing like a man, but you still have certain needs and requirements that the military needs to address.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, like, even, for instance, like feeling the need to like sort of shove down your emotions, like, so that you don't feel the feelings that you're going through. I mean, I just feel like on a psychological level that isn't particularly healthy either, and it would be wonderful to see, a lot more like psychological support. If somebody like if somebody loses a leg or something like that, they're going to need a certain level of psychological support to deal with that loss. Well, a mastectomy is an amputation. And, no matter how you look at it, it's an amputation, and there's a lot of grief and a lot of loss that happens to the body. So it'd be really wonderful to see, some, psychological support services, and as well as, the proper path to physical healing.
And how do you feel like your message has gotten across to other people that haven't gone through breast cancer or maybe can't relate to that type of struggle that a woman might have to experience? How has it been received well?
People are unbelievably kind and supportive, and I think, especially like, I think women in general are very touched by this project, because all women struggle with their body image. So, seeing these women standing and, being vulnerable, standing in their power, being very present for the camera, there's a lot of like power that they're seeing in an image. And I think it really helps other women to be seeing these images as well as military women. But, I always find that people are, super supportive. I mean, the other day we did a shoot out in, I met a woman out in Central Park, and I shot her there. She was New York City based, and, people were walking by. I mean, they're seeing this woman draped in camo and holding a sword, and with this this real vision of strength, and people were so drawn to that. And she had absolutely no breast. She had no reconstruction or anything like that. So people were really, you could, on the occasion that I sort of glanced around and saw what was going on, and people were so drawn to what was going on. It's very powerful.
Wow. It sounds like a powerful image. I mean, holding a sword in camouflage. That's kind of cool in Central Park.
Yeah. Yeah, she has some really beautiful images, and it's glorious. I invite everybody to go check her out.
Wow. So how do you come up with your ideas as far as how you frame a picture?
Well, I when I started the main part of the Grace project, when I started sort of thinking that I wanted to do this project, I was trying to think about how I could contextualize something that was a difficult thing to look at, but and a difficult thing to process, and how could I create a window that made something seem beautiful and powerful, and the thought that came to me was the Venus de Milo, the statue that survives the trauma of history, and in the process she's lost limbs, she's become broken, and yet we consider her like one of the most, the absolute iconic beauty that has survived the trauma of history. So I decided that I would make these women into goddesses. And, you know, I draped them in this beautiful fabric, and I would, like, you know, pose them in a way where they felt beautiful and graceful. And so then when I started doing the Athena division of the Grace Project, I was like, I needed to be able to sort of separate that somehow, and you know, from the rest of it. And it struck me that Athena is the goddess of war, and so I thought, rather than draping them in this flowy fabric like I do with the other women, that I would drape them in camouflage, and that I'd give them an ancient weapon to, like, hold. And it's interesting because the weapon really gives them, you know, it gives them sort of a point of strength in the portrait. And so, you know, that's how I sort of, you know, came up with the whole, that's how I sort of framed the image in terms of the composition and everything.
I think that's really amazing. You guys, I really appreciate your time that you spent with us. This is a great story. I really want to look forward to seeing this online if possible. This is Sharice Isis, the photographer of the Athena Division of the Grace Project, and Stephen Collada, U.S. Army Reservist, Sergeant First Class veteran, and the creator and co-founder of the Veterans Legislative Voice. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having us.
As always, Stephanie does a great job, and then she brings in a fantastic panelist regarding an issue that really needs to be addressed with more awareness. Bravo. Today's show, we want to thank, of course, all of our panelists and partners for a great show, great roundtables, great. Regarding information and resources that you need, please feel free to call America's Heroes Group at 312-803-2618. We're located at 155 North Walker Drive, Suite 4250, Chicago, Illinois 60606. To our digital media producer, Ivan Ortega of Scouts Honor Production. Yes, you are the best. To our technical producer, Lady J. Fantastic job. And to my volunteer, look at her, I surprised her, Alexis. I have a volunteer intern production assistant. She's in high school, and so she's helping me every Saturday or every other Saturday produce the show. So bravo. To our advisory board member, Illinois Congressman 7th Congressional District, Danny K. Davis. His birthday was Monday, so happy belated birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yay. Today's show is dedicated to the late Queen Elizabeth II and U.S. Marine veteran and CNN journalist Bernard Shaw. In a moment of silence, we will recognize them both.